Hey, welcome everybody to our Share and Care with Sandy Chernoff today. We are under the umbrella of Bringing Humanity Together, where we would like to bring the employer and the employee to the same table of humanity to make the workplace a great environment for everybody to be in. This is just one of 3 presentations that we have. We have Share and Care with Sandy on Tuesdays, our Conversation for Humanity on Wednesdays, and our Humanity Happy Hour on Thursdays. And all of those are at 3 p.m. As you are jumping on, feel free to join our live stream that I'm going to post here and the comments, and we will let you in from into the green room. At this point, we can have up to 6 people in the green room. If you are watching on LinkedIn Live, be sure and comment where you're watching from. And if you're watching on the replay, use the hashtag replay and let us know where you're coming in from. We'll be monitoring the chat as we go through it. So if you've got any questions or comments, feel free to join us. So we have Sandy that's going to lead our call today on leadership versus management. And then we have Brian here, who's a member of our group as well, who's, I'm sure, going to give us his perspective as well. So take it away, Sandy.
Okay. Well, the reason we're doing this today is because some people don't think there's any difference between leadership and management. But I think for most of us who have been in the workplace for a long time, we know that there actually is a difference. But I think that good managers should be leaders rather than micromanaging their team members, because that usually doesn't work very well. And good leaders lead by example. And if you have a new employee, they should be given a clear job description. And if they have any questions, that's when they should go to their manager, supervisor, leader, whoever is managing the team, and talk to them about it so that they know what is expected of them. But the manager or the supervisor or the leader of the team doesn't need to be telling them exactly how they have to do things. As long as they understand what is expected of them, they should be allowed to do it however they like. And in fact, otherwise, you are squashing the opportunity for suggestions and for creativity and all kinds of things. And micromanaging people never works anyway. And just because you have a certain way of doing things doesn't mean that that's the best way to do it. And if somebody comes up with a better way, maybe they can share it with the other team members, and maybe there can be more efficiency. I mean, why would you discourage somebody from sharing something like that? It just doesn't make any sense. But a lot of people in that position figure that that's what they should be doing. They should be telling people how to do things. Well, I'm sorry. That's not the best way to lead. The best way to lead is to listen. And the more you listen, the more you understand the people that are on your team, and the more opportunities we get, because if we don't listen, we miss opportunities. And it's very important to listen to your team members so that we know who they are, what their skill set is, what they like to do. And that way we can give them the tasks that they enjoy. And then everybody wins, because then their self-esteem goes up, they feel confident, they're going to do their job better. And so it's good for them and it's good for the team. So why would you discourage that kind of thing? It just doesn't make any sense at all. So what do you think, Brian?
No, I agree. Leadership and management are distinctly different. They have different functions in the workplace and in different roles. Neither one of them's better or worse. And I agree. I think leadership certainly, in conjunction with management, both of which certainly need an aspect of listening. And interestingly, most of the time we're listening to the words that we're saying as opposed to what other people are saying. It's an interesting way of listening, but
But not helpful.
No, well, it depends on what our intention is and what we're trying to help. But I still kind of look at both of them in the context of a workplace. There's still an aspect of a job needs to get done, whatever that job needs is and needed at that time. And I think we get we get caught up sometimes in the conversation of what leaders and managers should or shouldn't be doing all the time. And we circumvent the notion that they're there as an employee, just like as a regular employee is. They might just have a different title or a different position. And you know, the hope is that everyone is there to make sure that products, services, missions, visions, whatever the business is in business for, gets fulfilled. You know, and at some level, I think that supersedes behavior in some way or attitude in some way. That, you know, if I get the job done, good, I got the job done. I mean, not everyone's nice all the time. Not everybody has good days all the time. Not everybody can be perfect all the time. So, you know, we go through periods of time. I mean, sometimes we wake up on the wrong side of the bed, and sometimes some people are there for a decade. But
Some
you know,
people
it's
live on the wrong side of the bed.
yeah, exactly. But saying to Sandy's point, she's exactly right. Though I mean, they're different, and they're different at different times. You know, and I don't think management is the same in every circumstance, nor is leadership in every circumstance. I mean, you know, management was a byproduct of the Industrial Revolution largely. I mean, it's that kind of notion of assembly line, you know, mentality, where the worker was an extension of the assembly line. And, you know, in some places that still works, and in some jobs that isn't needed anymore.
No. It's a matter of, you know, one of the best things that a leader can do is really to listen to their people, because the more they listen, the more they learn about who that person is, what their skills are, what they really like to do, and all those kinds of things. And then they know how to deal with them more effectively, because everybody's different. And if we don't learn about the different people on our teams, then we're not going to be as effective in getting those teams to work properly. And, you know, if you want a high performance team that's going to be meeting your deadlines and getting the things done that we need to get done, then we need to know who the people are on our team and what their skill set is and what they like to do, so that we can give them the things they like to do and that they're good at. And then everybody wins. You know, it's really not rocket science, but it is a matter of paying attention. And to make assumptions never helps us, because, you know, you take that word assume, it makes an ass out of you and me. So there's not really much advantage in making those kind of assumptions. It's better to know. And the only way to know is to listen. And people who don't listen don't learn. You can't listen and talk at the same time. That doesn't work. So if you're going to learn about your people, you need to listen to them. You can ask them questions to find things out, but then you need to listen very carefully to the answers. Because if we don't listen, we miss opportunities. And that can be harmful to the business. I mean, why would you do that? It can be harmful for a whole lot of reasons. If people don't feel that they're listened to, and the suggestions that they come up with are going to be listened to and maybe moved forward, then why would they bother? And in the end, if that happens too much, maybe they'll leave. And turnover is always very expensive.
You don't want them to leave.
Because then you got to retrain people, and you got to get used to them, and everybody else has to get used to them. And it's a time waster, and it costs us money. And why would we do that? If we have good people, if we have done a good hiring job, let's keep them. Let's keep them and keep them challenged and give them opportunities to grow their responsibilities, so that they like coming to work, because, you know, they're not like a robot doing exactly the same thing every day. They've got different things to try and greater responsibilities, and that keeps them interested. And if they can be interested and looking forward to coming to work, to doing something new that they've just learned how to do or whatever. And that's why organizations that invest in their people by offering them training to upgrade their skills that they have and give them new ones, so that maybe down the road they can even get a promotion, then they feel good, because then they feel that the company values them, as they're making an investment in them. And again, if they have new skills, maybe they can have other responsibilities. They can learn to do new things. And again, that keeps them interested in their job. And if they're interested, they're going to keep coming to work. And, you know, we're going to get more out of them. But it's just a matter of, it's the right mindset. And so, if the manager or the leader or whatever you want to call them has the right mindset, they're going to have a good team, and they're going to keep their people, and their people are going to be satisfied. And so they will work well. And that's a win for everybody. It's a win for the individuals. It's a win for the team. It's a win for the organization. So if you have good managers who lead by example and who listen very carefully to their people, then you're going to have a good team. And good teams do good work.
Mhm.
So, it's just a matter of what are we doing? People who micromanage are a pain in the neck.
Well,
Because-
I think it's important to always be learning new things. And as a manager, I wouldn't want anybody to be bored at what they were doing.
No, it's
And if
not
they
fun.
said that they were bored, I'd say, hey, do you want to learn something new? Give them something new to learn, even if it's something simple, or allow people. I've been in this situation before that, if you had patients cancel on you, you were caught up on your work, like you've talked about before, Sandy, I'd go up and file charts. Oh, you shouldn't be doing that. That's not part of your job. I'm helping out the team.
Exactly.
It's not rocket science here, and it needs to get done, and I don't mind helping out.
Well, and if you're a good team member and you see that something needs to be done and nobody's doing it, so why wouldn't you do it? I mean, it doesn't make sense. Good team members are aware. And if they're aware, then, and if somebody needs a hand, so you go and give them a hand. I mean, okay, it's not my job description to file charts. So what? I still knew how to do it. I would even phone patients for confirming the appointments. I didn't care if I had a no-show. What am I going to do? Sit in the back room and twiddle my thumbs? How boring is that? So,
A lot of people would. A lot of people would.
I don't like being bored. I'm sorry. Like it's not my nature. I like to have something to do.
I didn't grow up that way either.
Okay, let's go then.
And it's more fun if you have something to do, especially something that's contributing to the practice or to the business, whatever it is. And I think people feel better about themselves if they're contributing. I mean, when I was practicing in dentistry, as I said, Carla, sometimes there are some things that I was doing that I really needed an extra hand for. And because I didn't have a regular assistant, I would have to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
And, if I was the person that helped others at other times, then I would certainly not have a problem getting somebody to help me. It was the same thing when I took x-rays. They've got to go through two different solutions and you got to time it. And if I'm in the middle of something and I can't go change them to the other solution, if somebody else can do it, thank you very much. And it's just a matter of, if you're on a team, then you help each other. And
Absolutely.
that's why the more people can learn how to do different things, then they can always help out because they know how to do some of the other jobs, even if it isn't their regular job, something they do all the time. If they've been given some cross training, then they can handle some of these other things. And it makes their job more interesting. People who are robotic and do exactly the same thing every single day, all day long, it's pretty boring. I mean, maybe some people really like that. It would drive me crazy. So, it's just a matter of what are you doing? And it's also, as you and I discussed earlier, Carla, it's not good for your brain. Your brain is designed to create new neurons, new brain cells as long as you're alive, but only if you challenge it to open new neural pathways. And that happens when you learn new things or when you do something in a different way. Like sometimes I tell people, okay, you're right-handed, brush your teeth with your left hand. Like it's just, something different to do. It's good for you.
That's really awkward, Sandy. I'll admit to that. Okay, we had that conversation.
But it's just a matter of, you can laugh about it. But it's a matter of people realizing that we don't always have to do everything exactly the same way all day long, every day. Sometimes we can find a different way to do the same thing, and maybe it's a better way.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Maybe it's more efficient. Maybe it's just more interesting to try it a different way.
I'm always looking for better ways.
Yeah, and I don't think people should be discouraged from doing that. Because again, we miss opportunities on people coming up with maybe a better way to do something. And if they can share it with their colleagues, then it's a win for everybody. And so, it doesn't need to be done exactly the way the manager has always done it. Like, who cares?
Right.
You can do it your way. I'm going to do it my way. As long as we get the same result and, you're getting what you need, who cares how somebody gets from A to B? I mean, I don't know why people would care. It doesn't need to be done the way the manager or the leader does it. It needs to be done so that it gets done, and it gets done well, and, whatever. And as long as that's happening, why do you care? Why do you have to be on top of the person? They have to do it your way. I'm sorry. No. As long as we end up with what we're looking for, we shouldn't care. And
why do you think that some people go down the pathway of being a manager, hey, follow what I'm saying, buy the book, and then other people have the tendency to be a leader?
Because I think they're control freaks. And their feeling is, I'm the manager, so you got to do what I tell you. Well, I'm sorry. That's not really what a good manager does. And again, that's why when I was in that tech firm and I asked the guy how he chose his managers, and his answer was, they've been here a long time. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not really the reason for choosing somebody to be a manager. Because you've got to find out whether or not they have the skills to be effective in that role. And although a lot of these guys, because they were techies, are very smart, and they are very smart, but generally they're left brain people, which means that they're not good at communicating, and they're not good at sensing what other people need, and so on and so forth. They're very good at the technology that they deal with all the time, which is lovely. But if they're actually going to be managing a team, they need to have better communication skills. They need to be paying attention to the people on their team, and they don't know how to do that. They just absolutely don't know how to do that. And so when I designed the managerial program for these guys, that was the first thing I concentrated on, was communication skills. And we actually did some role playing and some different things so that they could actually try it out. And they found in the end that that was one of the most helpful things that they learned in the program, because it was something they were obviously struggling with and not getting the results that they needed from the people on their team because they couldn't talk to them and they never listened. So, it was a really big problem. But, it's a matter of looking at who you have and making sure that if you are putting them in a position, don't set them up to fail. Like, why would you do that? You're going to put them in a managerial position, give them the training necessary so they can be good at it. Then they'll enjoy it. I mean, why not let them enjoy their work? Otherwise, what happened in the end with some of these guys, they left because the manager, the guy who owned it was just such a control freak. It wasn't comfortable for them. And in the end, a group of them left. It was sad to see. But, if you're not comfortable because people are not appreciating what you're doing and you're not getting any positive feedback, why would you stay? I mean, it's just, there needs to be appreciation for people to feel valued and to feel acknowledged for their contributions in the organization, and also to see how they fit into the jigsaw puzzle of the organization. Like, how do they fit in? And if they can see how they fit in and realize that they're being valued for how they fit in, then they're not going anywhere. They're really not. They're going to stick around and they're going to contribute to the organization and help it to be successful. Otherwise, you're going to have constant turnover. And, customers don't like turnover either. Customers like to come into a place and see a familiar face, somebody that they've talked to before and who they know knows them and, that kind of thing. So if there's constant turnover in a place, it's not comfortable for the customers, which means that you might not keep them because there's always a lot of competition out there. And if somebody's more comfortable somewhere else where they have the same kind of services and products, why would they stay with you?
Yeah. That reminds me of a story when I took my dad to lunch a couple of weeks ago, and my husband went with us, and we went to a local little chain restaurant. And there used to be this little old lady that would host. She was a hostess at the front, and she was just like on it. Hey, how are you? Haven't seen you in a while. It was just like you knew when you walked in, you would see her, and then she wasn't there anymore. And we happened to ask the girl as we were going out. Well, the hostess, the waitress we had only been there a week, and she was in training, needed a lot more training. But when we were leaving, we were asking one of the girls up the front, oh, what happened to that nice little lady that was up here hosting all the time? And instead of being polite and saying, well, she just decided to retire or make something up, whatever, she proceeded to tell us, well, she just didn't like the way that we treated her, so she left. And I'm like, I cannot believe I'm hearing this.
God.
No wonder she left.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh my goodness.
We got outside and we were walking to the car, and my dad said, "What the H was that?"
We're never
And
going
my dad's
back there.
87, so he holds nothing back, no filter. My husband is like, "Oh my God."
Oh, it's okay. That's what he thinks.
Yeah, and I just said, "Well, I can figure out why she left."
Wow. That's really sad.
It is
really
sad.
is. But again, you know, if the leadership of an organization doesn't realize the value of people and what they're doing for the organization, and if other people don't either, and they're not nice to people who are actually beneficial, then they're probably not going to keep them. And in the end, they'll suffer the consequences of doing that, which is really sad. And that's, you know, I said this once before, just because somebody has an idea for a business doesn't mean they're going to be a good boss. And if they're not, and they don't know how to hire staff and they don't know how to handle staff, then they're going to struggle. And it's one of the reasons why many small businesses don't succeed, because the people who start them don't know how to run them. And it's too bad, because it might have been a very wonderful idea. But again, if they can't handle, if they don't know how to hire staff and they don't know how to deal with staff, they're not going to keep their staff, which means that, you know, you can't run a business all by yourself unless you're doing what we do, Carla.
Right. Well, sadly, when they have such constant turnover, they don't necessarily look internally to say, maybe it's something I'm doing wrong.
Exactly. And that's definitely what you have to do. You have to step back and go, what is going on? Why do I have so much turnover? What are we doing that makes these people not want to stay here? And if we examine that and fix it, then we can do better. But, you know, like when my dad was running the practice, I mean, we had people that were there forever, you know, because we all got along, we had fun together, and we valued each other, and, you know, it was very different. And then after my dad passed away, my brother was pretty good. He sort of maintained it pretty much the way my dad had had it, and his partner. But after they sold the practice to that anger management guy, I mean, nobody wanted to stay. I mean, I told you the first staff meeting when he said, picture every new patient who walks in here with 2 suitcases full of cash, and the other hygienist looked at me and she goes, I'm out of here. And she left very shortly after that. And he turned over his assistant about every 3 months because he was so mean to her. And he had the receptionist in tears so many times that the receptionist that had been there forever with my dad, she left. And Linda was fabulous. And of course, all the patients knew her. You know, now they start coming in. There's a stranger at the desk. I mean, you know, it's not comfortable.
It felt good to be there.
Yeah. So, you know, it's a matter of what are you doing? And, you know, I mean, my brother left and his partner left and I left and the other hygienist left, you know, and the patients are coming in. They don't know anybody anymore. It's not comfortable. I was getting phone calls at home. I went to the office and you weren't there.
Yeah, I got emails like that when I left. Yeah.
And, you know, because they were used to seeing me and having me clean their teeth, and I just couldn't abide by this guy after a while. I mean, it just got to the point where he was just too annoying and too nasty and too mean. He was mean. He was absolutely mean. And so, you know, I just wasn't used to being yelled at all the time. And he even came to my house once and yelled at me. I couldn't believe it. I opened the front door.
Wow.
Yeah, and there he was.
That's not acceptable.
No. So I stopped him in the middle of his rant, and I said, you know what? Go away. He said, you can't talk to me like that. I said, yeah, I can.
Yes, I can.
Okay, goodbye. We're done. I mean, you know, you can't deal with people like that. You just cannot. And yes, part of it is perception, Brian. I agree with you. But the thing is that when it's constant, then it's not perception anymore. It's how he is. And my brother told me to go online and Google him, and I did. And there was nothing but nasty comments online. Ooh. So, you know, it wasn't just me, it was everybody.
Everybody else. Do you think it's gotten worse since there have been corporate we're kind of discussing healthcare because we're both in healthcare. do you think it's gotten worse since corporations have taken over? They bought up small practices. I was just talking to somebody today who said that, life was great until they got bought out by a big practice.
Well, then they're not as personal. And especially for medicine and dentistry, patients are nervous. Patients are worried, especially when they have health issues. And so we can't be comforting and we can't establish trust and rapport with these people, then we're never going to make them comfortable and they're always going to be anxious, and that doesn't help their situation. So it's very important that you have good staff who are empathetic and supportive and, establish good relationships with the patients so that they will be comfortable. And if they are comfortable, you have a far better chance of helping them, because otherwise you're never going to get voluntary compliance. So it's just a matter of what are you doing? So if they have a good process, in terms of how they hire their people and so on and so forth. And if the people don't understand that they've got to take care of these people, that's what you're doing. You're taking care of people. So they need to know you care.
That's why you put people in charge of, hold on. We have a fourth person with us. Let me change the view a little, see how I can do this. There's three. Oh, I didn't. There we go. Is that Pollyanna?
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Well, you know how I was having technical difficulties. I just found out that you can't do the lives via cell phone.
In all honesty, I was trying to search for it on my cell phone and I couldn't even find it. So I'm glad you jumped in. Pollyanna, feel free to introduce yourself to Sandy and Brian.
I need to turn a light on so y'all can see me. I'm Pollyanna. I'm a nurse practitioner in the state of Washington right now.
Oh, cool.
I'm actually who she was speaking about, like Optum bought our company. That was, fantastic a year ago prior to COVID, and now is being made due to this takeover. So, cutting jobs and that sort of thing. And it's been really tough. But anyway, I am or have been an ER nurse in urgent care, nurse practitioner. Nurse has over 20 years and a nurse practitioner for them. Yeah, so I'm very interested in what Carla had to say today.
Yeah, I was telling Sandy that you had done your dissertation on leadership versus management?
Leadership. Yeah, I have not a dissertation as much as that. I did a lot of research and paperwork on that because I believe that in the environment of healthcare, everything you guys were saying, I'm just trying to roll over in my mind about the authenticity of having those people up front that people just know. That's exciting to me. I think that we've lost a lot of that. I've worked rural medicine a lot for many years. So that personal touch of somebody saying, "Oh, how's your mom? She's fine. That's all good." I like that. It's fantastic. But it takes a lot to be a leader and not so much to be a manager. There are purposes for those positions. There totally are. But people need to really think about how they want to lead their lives if they want to become a leader versus manager. Yeah, I have a little. I won't say I have a sad feeling towards the word manager, but yeah, I like leader much better.
Oh, we do. We don't like the word manager.
No, I think it's terrible. I mean, it to me, it's a guy cracking a whip on a bunch of people. That's it. It's not the guy jumping out there to help, right? That's it. Yeah.
I think it's a mentality, Paulina.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mentality. And I think people who think that, they know it all and everybody's got to listen to them and do it their way. I mean, this is not good leadership.
No, not at all.
And it makes people uncomfortable. And, you're not going to get the best out of your people if they're uncomfortable or if they're fearful of you or whatever. And so it's much better to stand back and lead by example and let people do their own thing. I mean, if they've been given a job description and they know what they're supposed to do, why are you micromanaging them? Leave them alone. If they have questions And if you've been, open with them, then they'll come to you with their questions because they'll feel comfortable to do so. But if you haven't been listening to them and so on, then they will never come to you. And probably in the end, you'll lose those people. So, it doesn't help you. It doesn't help them. It certainly doesn't help your practice. So, or your business, whatever it is. And so why would you manage in that way? I think managers who are good are leaders. They're not micromanagers, who has to be their way. I'm sorry. That's not how you deal with people. It makes everybody most uncomfortable. And why would they want to work with you? I mean,
well, I think that having like associate, manager, director, executive, all those different levels really put people in boxes, and they keep people from working together as a team more than anything else.
Yeah, which isn't helpful.
I certainly don't have any qualms about surrounding myself with people that are smarter than me, because I know there are a heck of a lot of people that are smarter than me. Well,
the other thing is this, Carla, that if we're in a team, yes, there may be a team leader, okay? But sometimes, depending on the discussion that we're having about a project that we're going to get involved with, the leadership of the team may shift around the table depending on who has which skills to handle different aspects of the project. And therefore, yes, you may have a team leader, but in certain situations, other people may be in charge because they have more skills or more expertise or more experience in an aspect that we need. So let's listen to them and hear what they have to say about how we should handle that aspect of the project. There's nothing wrong with listening to other people. I mean, we then have the opportunity to learn something.
Well, hello, Chris.
Hi, Chris. Nice to see you.
Look who I brought to the call.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
I was having some fun at Sun and Fun.
Oh, good. How did it go?
It was good. A lot of planes in the air, a lot of food being eaten. So you know how that goes.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
So who do we have here with us today?
It's Pollyanna.
Hello,
Hi.
Pollyanna. How you doing today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you.
She and I bonded on LinkedIn earlier today. And we
Very good.
We got into a conversation about leadership, and I said, oh, my God, you've got to get on this call today. And I told her, I said, you need to meet Sandy because you're just about neighbors.
Yes.
Sandy, you're in Vancouver, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I wish I could cross the border right now.
I know what a pain in the neck it is, isn't it? Oh,
It's so terrible. I'm so close.
I went to school in Portland, and I have a lot of good friends down there. I haven't seen any of them for ages. We talk on Skype and we talk on the phone, but I haven't seen some of my very good friends for a very long time. I haven't even seen my grandsons who live in Toronto. I haven't seen them for about a year and a half. And it's really hard. I mean, we do Skype once a week, and it's very nice to have a conversation with him. But as I said to my younger one a few weeks ago, I said, Sam, we haven't seen you guys for about a year and a half. And he looked at me and goes, we see you every Sunday on Skype. I said, I know, but I don't get my hugs. So he wraps his arms around himself. He goes, I'm hugging you as tight as I can. Can you feel it?
So would you like my thoughts on leadership today, Miss Sandy?
Please.
Oh, absolutely. And Brian, too. We've got both coasts represented, the West Coast and the East Coast. I'm in Georgia, and these guys are in Florida. I wish I was in Florida right now.
Okay,
West
Chris.
Coast Florida, East Coast Florida. Well, for me, leadership is about really serving others, and really it's not about yourself. Because too many times, and a person who gets put in a position of leadership, it's always about the position. And Ryan will give you a different take and a different view on this because he's really opened my eyes to so many different things. But for me personally, from working for others for over 35 years, it hadn't really been that way. Yeah, part of it, I probably have done that to myself because I've seen it from my own certain point of view, because I don't know what I don't know, because I don't know what manager is going to whatever, don't know what person's going with this when it comes to a supervisor level. I don't know those things. But see, when we really have that conversation about whoever is in that position of leadership or even that team lead or whatever that is, what we really need to start thinking is, what are they doing? Are they having a good day? Are they having a bad day? Are they just stuck in a rut because something happened? Did someone cut them off? Who knows? And that's why we really need to get back to really talking to one another and understanding where their senses are, where they lie, where are they at. And maybe we can maybe be that guide to create that hero's journey for them and make them the hero that we know that we can make them be. And Brian, I'd like to hear your other take on that.
Well, in its most fundamental, leadership is simply just what's wanted and needed at that moment. And as we've talked about, management and leadership theory don't work. They're just theories. They're not the root of the or genius of what we're talking about. People work. So, I always cringe when people say they're a particular type of leader, and I always find that kind of bizarre because I don't quite understand how you know that in the moment. But in any event, one of the things that strikes me as interesting with leadership and in management is that we rarely ask a question, something to the effect of what's likely to happen if nothing unexpected comes along. Most of the time we look at management and leadership and we're always looking back and analyzing past experiences, past data, and we're extrapolating what's going to happen now and into the future. And the problem with that is it really doesn't make much of a difference. It's basically taking our past and putting it out into the future and living right into a default future that we've already created, which is ultimately our past. And, you look at companies, and companies always have a certain kind of fervor about them, and you can see it in employees and how they communicate and what people say. In healthcare industry, we're overwhelmed, we're going to get our pay cut, things aren't going to get any better. It's how people relate to their future is a critical component to management and leadership. And the best leaders that I know have the ability to create a conversation that generate possibilities for people's futures that weren't there previously.
Right.
And most of the time, though, it's, imagine allowing your past to just be your past. What happened 6 months ago has nothing to do with what's happening today or what's going to happen 6 months from now, right? I mean, one of the things that I think people struggle with is that they're constantly looking for the source of better performance and how to improve and how to generate more revenue or, improve on KPIs or whatever arbitrary metrics they've decided are important. But we rarely have a conversation within an organization of what's the root cause of performance? Where does it come from? How do you improve in that? How do you extrapolate performance from someone or something or whomever? And I just don't think that the conversations in whether it be big corporations, small companies, or otherwise are geared to that enough, right? I mean, we hear about it, and I remember this was back in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was the buzzword of a learning organization was like the new thing, right? Everyone wants to be a learning organization like Google and, put a whole bunch of beanbags out and look really cool. But one of the things that's funny about a learning organization is the conversations within a learning organization had nothing to do with learning, right? I mean, when was the last time you were in the workplace and you were on a lunch break or leaving for the day with a coworker and you talked to them and said, "What'd you learn today?" Right? I mean,
usually we say we're glad we're out of here.
Yeah, like even in school or a student, they take a test or an assignment. It's always, "Hey, how'd you do?" It's never, "Hey, what'd you learn today? What showed up for you?" And Well, the reason I say it, Chris, is because the best performers in the world are always the best learners in the world.
Well, and I'm glad you said that, Brian, because this is what I have learned from my father so well. It's like, Chris, if you can do one thing a day and you can say, I've learned something today, make it that one thing. So I've always strived to at least learn one new thing a day. And if I can learn that one new thing, not only can I have learned it, I can pass that on to other people. And if I have that ability to do that, not only can, it's almost like what you've taught me so well, Brian, is given that opportunity to have transformation take place.
Yeah, I mean, change and transformation are different. One makes a difference, one doesn't. Change is more, better, different of something that came before. It's just manipulating circumstances, and you get much of the same thing. Yeah, transformation is a unique thing, but that's a created future possibility that, takes effort. Most people are very easily happy with sitting and just being told what to do. We don't like managers, but most of the workforce is very happy just to do their job and go home.
One of the things we used to do at our staff meetings is if somebody went to a continuing education course, because the office always paid for our continuing ed, then at a staff meeting, we would give a review of what we learned at the course, share it with our team, so that they could also get the benefit of what we picked up at this recent continuing ed course. And that was something that we knew it was something we were going to have to do, but we were happy to share the information with our team so that they could also benefit from the time we spent at the course. And it would be a summary, but if I had handouts, I would bring them to the office and get the receptionist, when she had a chance, to copy them and give them to everybody so they could read the stuff. Again, as a professional, and I think, in most professions, it's really important to do continuing ed, to sort of keep learning things, Brian. It is important, and to keep up with what's going on in your profession. It doesn't matter what you do, whether it's in construction, or it's in engineering, or it's in dentistry, or it's in medicine, or it's in architecture, or it's in nursing, or it's in, my daughter's a dietitian, or when it's in dietetics. I don't think it matters what your area is. There are always courses that you can take to learn more and what's new that's going on in your profession. And it's very important to learn those new things so that you can apply them in your work. And it's also good for your brain.
Well, also bringing it back and doing a presentation for your coworkers allows you the opportunity to step into a leadership role. Exactly. And sharing that with people and being the leader and showing them what you do. I know a lot of nurses think of continuing education units as something that the devil makes them do it to keep their license, but you should really, do something, like an article a month. And even go above and beyond that, just to kind of stay current in what you're doing. I know when we used to do, Pollyanna, you can refer to this, instead of the basic life support, they had ACLS. And every year when it was time for everyone to recertify, or every 2 years, I can't remember when it was, everyone was cramming like they were in a college course. And I was like, and I go to management, I said, why don't you just highlight an algorithm every month? And then that way people are current with it, because this was like, if they had whatever rhythm, this is how you treated it with medications. This is the steps you went through. Everybody was like panic stricken, like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job if I don't have my certification. Well, if you had stayed on top of it, you wouldn't have had that issue.
Exactly. The other thing we used to do, because if there was an emergency, some kind of medical emergency in the office, we always had sort of a procedure of what happened and who did what. And if somebody wasn't there, then someone else took over the responsibility that they had. Who phones 911, who gets out the oxygen, who does, like whatever it was. And it's just a matter of, we all had to know what to do. And we also every year updated our first aid, so that people knew, how to get people back if they were unconscious and all those kind of things. We practiced it, and we practiced it on each other, and we reviewed it every year so that, it didn't matter. People were on top of it. Because God forbid there was an emergency in the office and we had a patient that passed out in the chair or something. Or if you've got, people have epilepsy. What do you do if someone has a fit in the chair? What are you supposed to do? Well, we have to review those things so that whoever was experiencing that with their patient would know what to do or who to call to get help or whatever it was, because you've got to deal with the emergencies and you have to feel able and capable to do it. So you've got to be on top of it. And so in every profession, there's always new things happening because there's new drugs coming out, there's new systems coming out, there's new approaches coming out. You have to be on top of it. And that's a continual learning experience, which is why most of us have to, in order to maintain our licenses, we've got to do continuing ed so that we are on top of what's going on in our profession.
Yeah.
And I used to teach in a study club, and I did that for 10 years. And Stephanie and I, my girlfriend and I that used to teach it together, we used to get together every summer and review all the literature and come up with the things that we were going to share in all the sessions so that everybody would be up to date. And sometimes we'd bring in a guest speaker, a dentist who would, come and talk about new positioning in the chair or, different ways of doing local anesthetic or, just different kinds of things so that people would be up on the techniques. And, it's just a matter of what the heck are you doing? And it's very important to continually learn. Absolutely, Chris. There's no question about that. It's good for your brain, first of all. And secondly, it's good so that you are up to date in what's going on in your profession so that you can be treating your patients and your clients appropriately. The latest, whatever it might be. And we have to know what that is. And the only way you can know is if you're doing continuing ed, either by doing research, reading, or by going to continuing education courses. I mean, every year there's the Pacific Dental Conference, which is 4 days. And there are speakers all day long, every day. And some of them are active workshops, some of them are just lectures. And there's also a big trade show. There's all the new equipment and everything is at the trade show. And we always came home with bags of samples, new toothbrushes, new toothpaste, new mouthwashes, new whatever, it didn't matter. And, it's kind of fun, and you would see your colleagues there. But again, you would pick up a lot of new information. And once more, pretty much everybody would go, but people went to different lectures. So we would share the information in the office afterwards. There would be a summary of what everybody picked up so that we could all share all the information. It's very important to do that. It's good for your brain. It's good for your functioning. And it's just good to be learning new things because it keeps you interested. And it's good.
So let me ask you this, Pollyanna.
Yeah.
In the time that I met you on Clubhouse, those conversations I had with you on Clubhouse was truly amazing. So thank you so much for connecting with me on Clubhouse. But what has been your view on leadership, especially that you've been in the realm of medical like Sandy and Carla has? What has that been for you, and how did that look like?
So what it looked like for me, I had an amazing group. So I went from nurse aide. So, as a teenager, as a nurse aide.
I love your story.
Then went on to be an LPN. Then I got my associate degree, my bachelor's degree, and now my master's degree. So I took the long way around. But in that time, I gained a lot of experience. And so every time in my mind, because, in my senior high school memory book, that I want to be the best nurse in the whole world, right? It's my grandiose idea. At the time, I thought I was going to be the best nurse, most famous nurse ever. I don't know how I was going to get famous, but there you go. But anyway, I had a lot of really strong female people to look up to, right? Like nurses. My mom was a nurse as well. My whole family, But so I've learned from these really strong women how to do this. And also, definitely been strong male personalities in my life. So not to discount the men out there either. But in my thought process, I always liked the managers that I had that tried to teach you, let you learn hands-on for me is huge, obviously. Going through school for so many years, hands-on was what worked for me. So once I became that role model leadership person, I started thinking, how could I help people? Like, I know what worked for me, and it doesn't work for everybody, but let's let you get involved in the decision making, or at least the illusion that you have the ability to change something, so that your mind allows you the ability to think, oh, well, if I say this, maybe they'll listen, right? Because I think a lot of times what you feel like you want to say, you don't feel like you're being heard, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So, one of the examples I always tell people, when I was in charge of some, nurses and paramedics, because the paramedics is what we use for like our orderlies. And I would tell them, don't come to me and complain about the problem. Unless if you have
a solution.
Well, if you have a solution to that problem, or if you entertain me by talking in a Batman voice.
I love it.
Really, honestly, I got everybody, they got them thinking. They have an option to come to me and talk and say, hey, I think we should try this or that. And I was always really open to that when I was in the part. It could be Adam West Batman, Christian Bale Batman, I don't care what Batman, Michael Keaton, whoever, or a cartoon voice, or even if you have a really cool accent that you could use, do that. But like, make me feel good about trying to help you at that time too, because as this leader, this person that's, your night shift manager, whatever, you need the ability to think critically, because it was ER. You can't stop any of that stuff. And you don't need all of the people chirping in the background at each other or at you, because you have to be a cohesive team to get things done. Absolutely. And that continuing to ask questions and educate each other. Like, I don't work out at that time, I didn't work out in the field as a paramedic, so it wasn't something that I was familiar with. So teach me what you would do if you came upon this situation. Tell me, and then I'll tell you in hospital how we would go about doing that. So it's just an exchange of ideas, but it's finding commonality. That's the thing right there.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Pollyanna, because Brian
things too.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, Pollyanna, because this is what Brian just eloquently stated.
I want to hear this.
How and what you say is decisive. Speak to them on their level. Brian, you got to expand on that.
Well, we talk about building rapport with people, with kind of finding a commonality of like, hey, I see you're wearing a Yankee hat, or you're a Yankee fan. But that's a very shallow, superficial way of building rapport. I mean, building rapport is much deeper in how you communicate with someone and how you talk to them. The language you use, the words you say, how you say them, tonality, and so forth. I mean, 93% of communication is nonverbal. But we focus on the 7%, which is verbal. And the point is, though, is what you say and how you say it is decisive. Is, if you look at, and I'll just use LinkedIn as an example. How often do you see these wonderful little meme posts for leadership of, telling you what to do and how to be, right?
Daily.
There was one that came up the other day, and this one was great. I'll just read this one. It says, inner peace. Inner peace begins with the moment you choose not to allow another person or event to control your emotions. Fabulous. The problem with that is that our unconscious mind does not process negative emotion and or words. So what the unconscious mind actually hears is inner peace begins with the moment you choose to allow another person or event to control your emotions. And your subconscious takes over, and guess what you do? You let other people bother you. See, the language is really critical. Negative words, chunking up, chunking down, chunking laterally, how you speak, all that kind of stuff is important, because there are some people who are very abstracted, big picture people. There are some people who tend to be much more detailed and in the weeds. And, we've all had those conversations, whichever one you may be. You might be having a conversation with someone completely opposite and your eyes glaze over, right? Because someone gets way too far in the weeds, or it's way too detailed, and you're a big picture abstract kind of person, or the opposite, and you just can't relate to it. But how you communicate with people and the words that you say could be much more intentional than they are. And we tend not to pay attention to that as much as we probably could, whether it be in the workplace or otherwise. I think I even mentioned to you, and I've read and talked to some other people, they've done studies in the workplace. Those little signs that they put up for, like, don't slipping in a place because they wash or it's wet.
Wet paint,
so
wet floor.
Yeah, so they've done studies, and a majority of injuries in the workplace come from slipping right at that sign.
Or touching the paint.
Or touching the paint, because it tells you not to do something, but the body sees the picture and says, ooh, that's fun, and it goes and does that. So it's the same reason why you would talk to a little kid and you tell the little kid, don't touch a hot stove. What do you think they're going to do?
Of course, they're going to touch the stove.
Right. Of course, because our brains don't process it a certain way. So you
Or
only
golf
hear.
Analogy. Don't hit it over to the right. Hit it over to the left. So we do. We hit it over to the right. We shank it to the right.
Of course, because what has your mind has your body.
Don't hit it in the junk. What do? You hit it in the junk.
Of course, because that's where you intentionally are telling yourself to hit it. But so Chris, to answer it, the rapport is much deeper in how to communicate, how to pay attention to people's body language, how to simply be with the person, listen to what they say at a different level. It's not just what you say or what you look like all the time. I mean, you have to baseline it and have to see what it is for that person, because one of the things I always found hysterical when I you study this kind of stuff and you talk to people, and the first thing they say is, oh, your arms are crossed, you must be closed off.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Maybe I'm just cold.
No, I'm just comfortable sitting like this.
Yeah, and I'm comfortable like this. So you have to put it all into perspective.
So,
it's not just.
So let me ask you this, Brian. I'm going to throw this also out to everybody. If we had to put a call to action out today for people in leadership, what would that call to action be? What would it be that we could do that for? What would it be, Brian?
Call to action for a leader. So you're asking them to take an action to do something. Get the job done.
Well, or else ask
whatever the job may be, get it done.
Ask
that's what they're paid to do.
Get the job done. How would they do it? How would they deal with people so that they can get the job done? What do you do? Are you successful? If leaders are successful because they're listening and they're, paying attention and giving the right jobs to the right people and so on, then they're probably going to be effective. But a lot of leaders are not, because they don't do that. They don't pay attention. And one of the things you said, Brian, is it's not just the verbal part of the conversation. You've got to look at the nonverbal messaging that's coming at you. Mm-hmm. And if they look uncomfortable, or they look angry, or they look confused, or whatever, then it's probably up to you to ask some more questions to make sure that you figure out what the problem is. But if we're not paying attention to that, then we miss those opportunities, which means that they're going to walk away going, I have no idea what this was all about, whatever. And so it doesn't help us. So yes, leaders, for their call to action, what do you do that helps you to make your team effective and to deal well with the people on your team? What kinds of things do you do? Or are you having trouble? What do you think you should be doing? Whatever. And let them share some of those ideas with us. Because, for most men, Brian, and I don't take this the wrong way, but for most men, a lot of men don't pay attention to the nonverbal messaging. They just don't. Women tend to pay more attention to that than guys do. There are some men who do, and they've learned to do it. But a lot of guys miss a lot of that messaging because they're not paying attention. And they're more thinking about, do what I say, kind of thing. Like that's what's going on in their head. And they're not paying attention to the fact of how what they're saying is being perceived by the people they are speaking with. And if we don't notice that they're looking confused or they're looking upset or whatever, then we miss the opportunity to fix it. So it is very important, and you mentioned it, to pay attention to the other part of the message that's coming at you. So you got to look at the person, see how they're standing, see the look on their face, and so on and so forth. And leaders who are effective with their people will notice those things and deal with it because they will talk about it. So, it's really important. It just is what it is, but we need to pay attention to all those things in order to be successful with our people. So if we're gonna have a call to action, that's something they got to pay attention to.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that whether you are called a leader or you're called a manager, I know I have people that I work with on my team and what I do, and I see things in people that they don't necessarily see in themselves, and I want to give them the resources to be able to grow and be able to help them grow. And, it sounds kind of crazy, but in what I do, I want people to be more successful than me.
Well,
It's not that I'm sitting way up here, and there are people in our organization that have been there longer than I have. But I gave all that up. I want the people I work with to grow. And it's not about me. It's about what can I do to help you grow. You don't know how to do this, or you don't know you're not comfortable with social media, or you're not sure how to reach out to people or whatever, or you don't really have it straight in your mind, what information you want to give people, or you're looking for resources. I'm a resource person. I want you to be able to do your job and to be able to grow because, in what I do, the first thing I tell people is I'm not your boss. I'm not your boss. I'm here to help you grow. You're your own boss. And when it comes to accountability, you have to be accountable to yourself. But I think as leaders and managers, I don't want to micromanage anybody. And I don't think that anybody on the face of this earth wants to be micromanaged and told what they're supposed to do the minute they walk in the door to the minute they leave. And no, you're not doing this right. You're not doing that right. It's like, well, hell, tell me something that I'm doing good today. There's so many people that aren't doing that. And that's to me, the fastest way to burn anybody out.
Right.
And I think we all, no matter what you're doing, when you're working with people, I believe that everybody can be a leader, and everybody needs to look at what they can do to leave people better each and every day.
Carlin, you basically said this. You just didn't come right out and say it. The people that you work with, you want to look for the potential in them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
To develop that potential. And if you can do that, that's what good leaders do. They help people develop that potential. And, no matter how you do it, whether you get them to do research or you train them in different ways, whatever, it doesn't matter. But if we can help them to fulfill that potential, everybody wins. Because again, their self-esteem will go up, their confidence will go up, and the team wins because they're going to do better work. And you're going to win because they're see that you cared about them and valued them, so you help them to be better. It's a win all the way around. That's something else that good leaders have to do. And if they get to know their people and learn more about them, then they'll see the potential there.
Well, like I've been given opportunities to go to seminars with one of the companies that I worked with for almost 14 years. And I finally, I told them, I said, they said, do you want to go? I said, look, I've already been twice. I think you need to send somebody that's new on the team so they can learn and grow, because it's nice to know what's new and out there, but I have other ways that I can actually take advantage of getting that. I want the newer people to be able to feel appreciated, have that opportunity to go for a conference, because it's like a little mini vacation, even though you're sitting in, a conference room all day. But the people you meet, the networking and the growth and your self-esteem growth, that you're representing your company and learning new things, and you can take them back and show them to your team. That's a huge shot in the arm for people.
Yes.
I said, send the new people. I don't need to go. Thank you, but no thank you.
Yeah, it's enormous. It's absolutely enormous. Okay, well, I think this was a pretty good session.
Yeah. How about you, Pollyanna? You still there?
Yeah, she's probably on the phone right now. So,
Oh, okay.
but like I said, Sun and Fun was great. Everyone, I'm glad this one day we're gonna have to probably do maybe LinkedIn Live from Sun and Fun sometime this week because the planes out there is gonna be nice. Because the Thunderbirds are gonna be in here, the Blue Angels gonna be there. So, again, Sandy, Carla, Brian, Pollyanna, thank you all for having this great and engaging conversation. I apologize, but I had to go work the event and everything, but it was really good to go out there and see something nice. So, like I said, Carla, Sandy, and Pollyanna, if you guys can stay off a couple of minutes, I want to chat with you a little bit. Brian, I'll definitely chat with you soon. And how's Graham today?
Haven't talked to him.
Oh, we got to get Graham on one of these calls.
Haven't
tell him
talked to
hello
him.
for us.
Haven't talked to him in about a week.
Well, next time you talk to him, say hi to him from all of us.
Yeah.
I will. I will.
Encourage him to come on.
Yeah, we miss him, Brian.
Yes, we do.
I like him on.
We're
Give
working
him,
through
give,
that.
give him the mindset to just not even look at that little live icon, okay?
I am working it through with him.
And tell him, remember, fear is just something you imagine, right?
This is
Tell
true.
him not be fearful of that live button.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
All righty. Graham, we miss you. Love to see you. All right, guys. Have a good one.
Okay.
Bye.